Hey guys, this is Gabriel Ansley Erb, and this is Friday the 13th, November of 2015. And I want to do something today that I've never done. I want to tell you about a dream I had this morning that I really don't know what to make of, but I feel the need to share it with the world. So here it is. I was in this room, this large room with maybe only like a 9-foot high ceiling, just a flat room, big, maybe 80 foot by 100 foot, long, wide. It was a big room, and it had these square column supports in it, and tables sitting all over the place, and some benches along some walls, and it had glass windows on the outside on some of the walls. And there was somebody talking or singing up in the one corner of the room, and everybody was paying attention, listening to the person talking or singing. I can't really remember exactly. And anyway, I was standing in the opposite corner of the room from the person that was speaking or singing, and I was standing up right beside one of those square column supports in the room. And I remember looking out the window, the glass window there to the right side of the speaker, and there was this pile of lumber sitting there. And I was looking at the edge of the lumber so I could see what it was, and I could see the length of it too, even though it was pretty far away. I might have been 80 foot away, but I instantly knew, don't ask me why, I just knew that they were 2x10s by 16. In other words, they're 2 inches by 10 inches by 16 feet long. And I'm a carpenter, and so this is something that normally you use for joists, joist work in a house. And anyway, all of a sudden I'm standing there, and I saw one of these 2x10s. The pile was like picked through. There was different heights piles. They're laying flat, but maybe one pile had 10 of them. The next pile might only had 4. Then the next pile had 8. Anyway, so I watched one of these 2x10s just start to suspend, just start to lift up, and it turned on a 45 angle. And then all of a sudden it just flipped up into the air over top of the pile to the right of it and landed flat again. And I remember thinking, there was nobody around. There was no workers. There was, it just like magically happened. And I was amazed, thinking, what in the world? What did I just see, And about that time, as I was thinking this stuff, I watched the entire pile just start to be lifted up off the ground, as if, some strong wind or something was just picking it up off the ground, and it was trembling. The whole pile was shaking. And then all of a sudden, here came one of those 2x10s flying through the glass and into the room. And I mean, it was sailing parallel with the floor, maybe 2.5 feet off the floor. It sailed the whole way across that room and impaled into the wall behind me to the left of me, where some people were sitting on a bench. There was a bench along that wall, and they had just barely escaped it. I mean, they dove to their left, and that thing just missed them. But it caused a bunch of destruction, and then all of a sudden, here came more of them. I mean, they just started coming in, just flying across the room, causing pandemonium and destruction. And all of a sudden, I saw one of them coming at me. So I got behind that column that I was in front of, the square column that might have been like 16 by 16 inches, trying to hide behind it, thinking, maybe that'll protect me. But even as it was coming, this all happened in a split second, really. But I thought, man, it might go right through this column. And so right as it was about to get there, now, like I said, this happened in a split second, I jumped up, and the beam went through the column right underneath me and hit these like 4 people that were just kind of kneeling down in a line behind me. And just, yeah, it was brutal. And it just, it just was the destruction. I mean, these beams, these 2x10s by 16s were just causing this destruction, in this place. And these people were just, And then all of a sudden the dream changed, and I was sitting at this table, and there was a bunch of people around. It was like a cafeteria in this time, if you remember from your childhood days in school, where like there's a long line of tables, And there was people sitting at my little table there, and we were talking about what had happened. And I remember this little lady standing up, and she was telling us how she had tried to stop one of those 2x10s, and her finger was black and blue. And I was just sitting there, and I remember thinking in the dream how ashamed I was that I didn't try to stop any of them, but yet she did. And it just hit me. I was just like, what kind of a person that, I was trying to jump out of the way of them, and here she is trying to put her hand up and trying to stop one of those things, And I remember just being ashamed at that. And then I was, as I came awake, or even this might have made me come awake, I had this thought. Now, this is just something I would never think. It was like this voice or something just said, the 2x10x16 is a date. 210 of 16. I know this happened in a half a second. And I remember even being amazed that was a date that hadn't came yet. Like that was, 4 or 5 months away or whatever it is. February 10th of 2016. And it was like, destruction's coming. This is what I thought, and I'm awake now. And I'm just laying there just amazed, like, because my whole dream, I knew these were 2x10s x16s, but I never once would have even considered, that was a date. And so anyway, I woke up and told my wife about it, and I didn't know what to think of it. I was just thinking, is something, really significant going to happen on that date? Is destruction. Like those 2x10s x16s were literally causing destruction. They were coming across. So is 210 of 16 going to bring destruction? Just like those 2x10s x16s were bringing destruction. And anyway, but at the same time, I was like 95% sure that this dream doesn't mean anything. Like, I just wasn't willing. I mean, this just isn't, I'm not a person that looks for numbers all over the place. And, I'm not one of those crazy numerology people that, now there's numbers in my book that I've written. I've written a book called Undeniable Biblical Proof that Jesus is going to return 2,000 years from the year of his death. But these things were given to me by God. These numbers are in the Bible. They're so simple to understand. I mean, there's nothing. This ain't some crazy number games. I mean, this is so simple when you learn them. And so this was just out of left field for me. I just didn't know what to think. And anyway, so the day went on, and I wrote a blog about it. I thought, well, I better write a blog, because if I don't tell it, and something does happen, I thought literally I would be self-fulfilling the dream. I'd be like the person that didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to try to warn anybody or tell them or try to protect people or save them. So I wrote a blog. Well, anyway, and I was going to leave it at that. But tonight, I get on my book website, and this guy has left this comment, this guy named Dave S., and I'm going to read it to you. Now, this is still the same day. It's still Friday the 13th, and here in November of 2015. And here's what he wrote. He said, I don't usually post comments on the web, but something happened today that I felt compelled to share with you. And I have never been to your site before this happened. My first cousin accidentally drowned to death yesterday in a pond trying to retrieve 2 geese that he had shot. And this led me to do a lot of reflection this morning. And I started thinking about the exact year that Christ would return. For some reason, I was constantly drawn to the stock market ticker for the Dow. I couldn't stop watching it. At the same time, I was still thinking about the date of Christ's return. And by the way, I'm just guessing he's probably wondering when Christ will return just so he can see his first cousin again, is what I'm thinking. But he didn't say that, but that's what I'm thinking, probably what got him thinking and reflecting on, just the end. And so anyway, specifically, he says he asked God this morning to give him a sign of Christ's return by showing it to him in the numbers that reflected how many points the Dow finished down at the end of the day. So he watched, he said, through the day, and it was down around 100 to 150 points for much of the day. And then at the very end of the day, it shot down even more, and it ended the day being down exactly 202.83. 202.8. That's 2028. After this happened, he said he did a Google search for Jesus' return in 2,000 years. And I clicked, he said, on the first site that came up. Well, it was mine. It was my book website. And he started reading, and all of a sudden he saw 2028 end. By the way, I've made a movie. I don't know if you guys know, if you're listening to this and you don't even know, but there's a website called 2028end.com, because I believe Christ died in the year 28, and he's going to return in the year 2028, 2,000 years after the year of his death. And so this guy goes, I couldn't believe it. He said, there's no doubt in my mind that this was a sign from God today. Does this mean that Jesus will return in the year 2028? And does that mean that the rapture might occur in 2021? I'm curious to find out your thoughts. Well, anyway, there is no pre-trib rapture, but anyway, you can tell this guy's wondering. Anyway, I told you that to tell you this, that guy having that happen to him today, and I checked the Dow, and absolutely, it came down 202.8 today, or 2028. And this got me to thinking more here tonight about my dream. Like I said, this is obvious that I'm not a number man. I'm not a person that like tries to add up numbers and try to look for, the meaning in numbers, on my own. I mean, if God tells them to me, like he did, things in my book, which are so simple. But here's the deal. Long story short, I somehow it hit me that 2, 10, and 16 equal 28. 2 plus 10 is 12, and 12 plus 16 is 28. So now I don't know if God was just trying to confirm everything he's spoken through me. I wrote my book in 2008, and maybe he's just simply confirming again that 2028 is the day of the final destruction, the return of Jesus Christ. And so that's it. I don't know. Otherwise, look for possibly something major going to happen in February the 10th of 2016. That's all I can say. Just be extra cautious on that day. Pray for people that God would protect them. And so that's about it, man. This is Gabriel, and I'll talk to you later.